They say the eyes are the window to the soul. But what do you do when the eyes of someone you know start to change because everything they once knew and believed in was a lie? Can you save them? Or is the change inevitable? Greetings all, it is your illustrious Lady Rouge One Full here, finally returning from the ether to talk about Transformers 1. This movie has now officially become my favorite Transformers film. Now, granted, the Bayverse didn't exactly give it a lot of stiff competition. The bar was in hell for quite a while. Thankfully, with the franchise getting a soft reboot through Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, the franchise got a much needed breath of fresh air. Now, as someone who's been watching Transformers since they were a kid, I knew I would like one, but by God, I didn't realize how much I would absolutely adore it. This is by far the best Transformers movie to come out in decades. Unfortunately, not a lot of people saw it. The movie didn't flop, but it definitely didn't break any box office records. The studios made sure that there was absolutely no hyper buildup for this movie, and what little bit of an advertising campaign did exist absolutely sucked. The initial trailer had turned off a lot of people because they made it look like a cringy comedy kids film and not something that every Transformers fan, regardless of age, could enjoy. The film was an absolute delight to experience in theaters, but it's out on streaming now, so if you didn't get a chance to see it there, you should watch it at home. Legally, please, because if Hasbro does see that there is a big enough demand for it, who knows, they might greenlight the sequel despite it not doing well in the box office initially. And speaking of streaming, I decided to hold a little movie night in my Discord, and one of my friends had pointed out something I hadn't noticed on my initial watch. Megatron's face right after his fight with Optimus, and what looks like tear stains. This one tiny detail that the animators cleverly put in got me thinking, what else were we seeing in D16's eyes prior to him turning into Megatron? The first thing, which is the most obvious, is that his eye color is completely different from everyone else we see in Icon. If your eyes aren't blue or purple, they're covered by a blue, purple, or in some cases an orange visor. No one else in the entire movie has these yellow eyes. And from a visual perspective, this was a very clever decision. Yellow and red are extremely close together in the color spectrum, so if you aren't paying very close attention, you can easily miss the tinges of red getting added to his eyes as early as D seeing Megatron as his dead body. This visual decision would have been a lot more noticeable early on if D16's eyes were blue like everyone else. His anger consuming him to the point of becoming truly noticeable and worrisome to both the audience and Orion doesn't really become clear until after he kicks the crap out of Starscream, saying it's the last time he shows mercy. And it's a promise he definitely keeps. Once a bunch of the High Guard along with B and D16 get captured and sent to Sentinel, it's really undeniable at this point that D is slipping. His eyes going from a bright yellow to a dark orange with more red creeping in. By the time D accidentally shoots Orion trying to get at Sentinel and right before D16 drops him, if you look very, very closely, you can see the bits of yellow that are still left struggling as they shift back and forth before going red. Just imagine Orion's perspective and how awful this is. He is looking directly at his friend's face as he's slowly dying, and he can see the internal struggle happening. Watching him as all the anger and hatred finally takes him over entirely and his eyes go fully red. By the end of Optimus and Megatron's fight, and honest to God, this movie has the best utilizations of transformations in a fight ever, and it's worth the price of admission alone. We see parts of that anger and frustration get illustrated in those tear stains. Orion was his best friend, practically a brother. The one person who he thought he could trust, but slowly started seeing him as a threat to what he felt needed to be accomplished in order to start things anew. There is one final moment with Megatron's eyes that I do think needs mentioning, and it's right as he's banished.
Go. Take the High Guard and leave. You are banished from Iacon. It didn't have to end this way.
This isn't over, Prime.
My personal interpretation of that moment is D16 is completely gone. There is no hope of getting your old friend back because it's not until after this moment that he officially calls Optimus a Prime. Megs didn't call Optimus a Prime when he arose from the ashes. He just said Primus gave you the Matrix. It's not until after he's banished that Megatron only sees him as a Prime, an enemy, and leaves. I never thought I would see the day when someone would make Megatron of all characters into a tragic figure, but here we are. Dude went from someone who was just living his life, following the rules, being a cog in the machine, only to find out that his entire life was a lie, and that lie was committed by someone he greatly respected and admired. I think the story was very clever in showing us that Megatron could have gone either way. Yeah, the whole point of this video is to talk about how the red in his eyes slowly grows, representing his anger consuming him, but there was another color present, and that's green. Now, green is in the middle of the color spectrum, and even after the truth is revealed, both colors are still very much present in his eyes, with the green actually being a bit more dominant. I like to think this is the movie subtly telling us that if D16 had learned to let go of his anger and not seek revenge, his eyes could have shifted in the opposite direction closer to his friends, growing as a person and becoming a more balanced character. Now, don't get it twisted. I ain't saying that he had to forgive Sentinel or anything like that. God knows the man does not deserve it. But there is a definite middle ground between Sentinel paying for his crimes and Megatron deciding that he is going to be the sole judge, jury, and public executioner. Plus, he said he would destroy everything and kill everyone merely associated with Sentinel. And that's a power no singular person should have. Especially since there are definitely going to be bots that are like him, but they might not be ready to accept the truth yet. That doesn't mean that they deserve death, though. And D only fully slips into being Megatron once he figuratively and literally lets Orion go. The one person who kept him grounded, but he saw as the main obstacle that kept him from putting Sentinel on a t-shirt and restarting the world. This movie did an amazing job making a villain like Megatron more layered. Most iterations are pretty one-note, getting depicted as evil, a despot, a megalomaniac who just wants to rule Cybertron, and sometimes Earth. Nothing wrong with that, we love a villain who's evil for evil's sake in this house. Transformers Prime version of Megatron is my absolute favorite version of him because of how evil and ruthless he is. If he isn't threatening or manipulating you to do what he wants, that man has no problem getting his hands dirty. The guy isn't a deep character, and that's fine. Not every villain needs to be. But every once in a while, it's nice to get a nuanced, in-depth look at villains like this. As long as you don't side with them by the end, it's cool to see how they were before, how they fell, and became the person that we know them as today. Everything about this movie is great. And the animators using his eye color to show just how badly D16's descent into becoming Megatron has become my absolute favorite detail in the movie. Thank you everyone for joining me into my first foray of Transformers, and I deeply apologize for not being here the way I used to. Life has been kicking me in the face health-wise, I've been doing more voice acting professionally recently, but I do promise to come back more often. So if you want to see these future videos, make sure you hit all the buttons, leave a comment so the algorithm can push me, or if you just want to chill, relax, and watch me play games, you can follow me over on Twitch where I am a VTuber. Alright, I enjoyed making this video. What's next on my list?
I fear no gods.
Crap.